Coming up on the LCS Preview Show, we recap Week 6, break down Week 7, and check in with XDG's Benny about his team's new roster. Plus, Cyanide reveals why Fnatic's losing streak is over, and we bust out the top 5 plays that broke your brain. Don't go anywhere. The LCS Preview Show starts right now.
This is Copenhagen. And that's going to be Counter Logic Gaming taking the game 2-0 on the week for these guys.
Gambit Gaming have taken down Super Hot Crew with the help of some pajamas.
SK Gaming forced Roccat into the surrender. SK really are Rockat's kryptonite.
Still going for the kills. He's not going to get it. Oh my God, he does get it. Coast breaks the win streak of Team Solo Mid to go 5-8.
Welcome to the LCS Preview Show. I am Rivington Bism III. He is Joshua Jat Leesman, and we are your tour guides for this week's journey through the League Championship Series. Ready to do this, Jat?
I don't know. I can't find my headset for some reason.
I know.
So how am I going to talk?
A little different. My ears are cold. It's time to kick off the show with a look back at Week 6 of the North American LCS, starting with a battle between two teams looking to move up in the standings. It was first to look at the highlights, Dig versus Evil Geniuses. And Evil Geniuses was looking strong in this game.
Yeah, and right off the bat, it looked like Crumbs got caught out of nowhere. People saying, why did he go there? It was a pre-orchestrated plan by EG. They're good at level 1 in North America.
And it didn't stop from here. We saw Snoopy on new champions all the time. This time, Pantheon going on him, and he's going for more kills.
And this was a particular game where he got Pobelter and Inox, his solo laners, incredibly far. And Pobelter was so far ahead at one point, the entire Dig team tried to take him down, and they couldn't get him.
And that was kind of the story of the entire game. Dignitas scraping back for more kills, but Evil Geniuses, Snoopy, again coming in strong for the team to help finish out the game.
Yeah, and people were saying this is the best Evil Geniuses has looked the entire season. Hard to argue with that one-sided victory.
The next game we look at to highlight is Team Solo Mid versus Coast, an 11-game winning streak for Team Solo Mid, and many thought they would extend it with this game.
Yeah, and this was the game of the week, I gotta say. Coast was trying to do a Dragon, close game. TSM came in huge at this Dragon fight.
And this is the way it usually goes for Team Solo Mid. They take control of the Dragon, and they take control of the game, but it did not happen that way. Turtle and Xpecial play it big here, but Coast starts to take over after this.
Yeah, and this was really the first time Bjergsen's looked vulnerable. Shifter could kill him 1v1. Ari, first time he's picked that all split. It was Shifter's most played champion in Season 3, but first time this time, it worked out well.
And you thought it was going to be the clinch for Coast, but TSM, they made it look like the comeback was coming. Coast tries to get into the base, knocking on the door, and TSM says, no way.
Yeah, this was just such an intense game. TSM desperately trying to hold off Coast again and again. You can see how close it was here. This was so close to turning in either direction if TSM could have closed out the rest of these kills.
Continuous catches in that fight really left Coast sweating, but it was all up to Ari. Shifter had a huge game on this. The Lich Pain came through big, and everybody remembers the Nexus.
Oh my God, how many times have we seen this, and how many more times do I want to see it? Because he dodges everything, the tibbers, the barrels, the body slams, and he gets the finish.
It's just as good every time, and you can see the team, a much needed win for Coast there. Looking at the next highlight is CLG versus Coast. Coast looking to extend those victories, but CLG had something else in mind.
Yeah, we all thought that Coast was going to take the momentum from that TSM win, but CLG was just on another level last week. The ganks from Dexter again and again destroying Coast.
And the combo really used completely in this was the cow ball right here. The Orion Alistar combo, we needed more of it.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to see more of it pretty soon because it was again and again. Afro and Link had so much synergy together with the Alistar Oriana, winning team fight after team fight.
And that's been CLG's story as well for them. Communication, strategy, and methodical defeat of the teams that come in front of them.
Yeah, CLG looks better and better. Maybe, for once, we'll see a bit of CLG consistency because they look good, and they looked good last week.
Well, they got 3. See if they can make it 4. And with Week 6 and our match history, let's take a look at the NALCS standings. Team Solo Mid and their Burger King remain the royalty of North America, with Cloud9 floating 1 game below.
After that, it is a fully armed and operational Counter Logic Gaming. Then it's Dignitas, a 3-way tie for 5th, and finally XDG, who's sitting at the bottom of the pile, fighting to avoid LMQ in that summer promotion tournament, or whoever they come up against. if they stay in that spot.
And one of the big reasons for CounterLogic's recent success has been the much anticipated arrival of Dexter. CLG is finally playing with the roster they were planning on starting with all spring. And I've got to say, they look pretty good.
Yeah, Dexter not only provides intense amounts of pressure out of the jungle, he has provided some much-needed roster stability for CLG. CLG as a whole has benefited from Dexter's presence. Their team KDA has more than doubled since he's arrived. And more importantly, the team has gone 4-1 in his 5 starts. But Dexter hasn't been just handing out gift wrap stats to his friends. He's got some good numbers of his own. 3.2 kills per game and 337 GPM, gold per minute, which is actually second in NA to only Meteos in the jungle.
And one of the guys that has benefited the most from Dexter's jungle presence is CounterLogic's mid laner, Link. Not only has he been able to return to the cozy confines of the mid lane, but now that he's there, Link has continued to assert himself as one of the best mids in the game.
Yeah, last week, Link actually outdueled ManCloud and Shifter to help CLG to a perfect 2-0 record on the week. Since last summer, Link's emergence as an AP carry that can actually carry changed CLG from strictly a protected double-lift team into this 2-pronged attack squad, sometimes 3 with Nien, and they can blow up the enemy from multiple directions.
And while Link certainly didn't struggle in the jungle, he looks much more comfortable in the mid lane, and last week he was rewarded with the MVP for his perfect performance.
Yeah, thanks to his 11-kill, 0-death performance on the LCS stage, Link has blasted past all the other North American mid laners and racked up a KDA almost twice as high as Burger King in that mid lane. And obviously KDA does not tell the whole story, especially with that small sample size, but it's safe to say Link is amongst the best mid laners in North America.
Yep, and heading into week 6, the biggest story off the Rift was that Team XDG was going to assemble on the Rift after the departure of their support, Bloodwater. After a disappointing couple of games, XDG has decided to make another roster change heading into week 7, and here to discuss their new lineup is XDG manager Julian Collins and top laner Benny. Gentlemen, before we head into this interview, I need to take a step back and really get your take on, the Bloodwater situation. In hindsight, what could have been done differently?
As far as what could have been done differently, we really feel that the dedication issue was a problem going into it. To do the whole roster swap that we were going into, it really took a lot of dedication from each one of the players, and we really didn't see that going into it. So looking back at everything, I think we could have benefited by pushing more practice time, pushing more, maybe even trading Bloodwater when given the choice.
Right. So then that kind of works into the role swap back that's happened. Why now would you put Xmithy back into the jungle as opposed to when you weren't having the dedication, when you were having problems earlier on in the season?
I think we really saw it early on in the season. I think it was about week 2 where we really thought that was going to happen. We really thought that was the ultimate goal, was to get Xmithy back in the jungle, but we decided to give a little bit more, let Bloodwater we took his advice and said, yeah, he wants to play, get back into it. So we knew the whole thing going back into it was going to be Xmithy back in the jungle, but we really just didn't move fast enough.
And with the swaps, Zuna performing in the roles here and there, why back to ADC now? Why not before?
I think it's the same thing. Right. We decided to go back because we thought he's really, he can move around really quickly. His ability is being pick up new champions really quick. And so he's always been obliged to do whatever the team needs for him to do. So we really think that the AD carry is the perfect role for him right now.
And Benny, I know you had a lot of thoughts about this in your vlog as well, but kind of talk to me a little bit about Sheep and how he's going to be added into the team now after all your instability.
Well, just right off the bat, Sheep's personality, we feel like it meshes a lot better with us just because he just has a really good attitude towards the team, and he's really available and shows his dedication just talking to us. And then in the scrims even, I think just his ability to initiate team fights or just roam across the map, we feel a lot more presence in this respect.
And also, just final question for you guys, Benny in particular, because of all the roster turmoil you've had, how is that affecting your play in the top lane as far as from game to game?
Honestly, I guess since last split or last season, I usually play on an island, right? Mm-hmm. Well, everyone plays on an island if it's top lane, but I think for me particularly, I'm used to not getting too much jungle presence because I try to do what's best, or just try to do my job and hold my own, whether it's 1-on-1 or 1 versus 2. And I guess it does change my style a little bit just because I've been played with like 3 different junglers now. Like it started off with Smithy, then it went to Zuna, then back to Nick, and now it's to Smithy again. So like, I was like confused on the first week of scrims when we had Nick, or just having Smithy back in the jungle. I was like, hey Chris, like that's Zuna's name, but I just like, my mind's just going everywhere right now.
Yeah, a lot of tough adjustments to make.
Yeah.
All right, well, gentlemen, Julian, Benny, thank you very much for the interview. Best of luck in the changes and best of luck in the games in this upcoming week.
Thank you.
All right, even though we are still 2 days away from North America's Week 7, it's never too early to start locking in your weekend LCS plans. Coming up on Saturday, XDG and their new roster have a tough test right off the bat when they take on Cloud9. And remember, Saturday's league action concludes with the return of the Challenger Series right after the LCS games. Then on Sunday, the NALCS returns to the stage with an epic battle between second-place Cloud9 and first-place Team Solo Mid. And speaking of Cloud9 versus Team Solo Mid, Sunday's marquee matchup is our North American BF Game of the Week. Even though Team Solo Mid is sitting atop the NALCS standings, it's only after their Week 3 win over the defending North American champs that Team Solo Mid could once again claim to be the best team on the continent. But Cloud9 has just as much claim to that title, having beat Team Solo Mid the first 8 times these teams went head-to-head, including going a perfect 7-for-7 during the 2013 split. And those wins were not close. Cloud9 owned Team Solo Mid one after the other. In fact, statistically, Cloud9 has dominated this matchup. Every member of Cloud9 has a KDA of over 5 against TSM, and Meteos leading the way at 14.40. On the flip side, no one on Team Solo Mid has a KDA above 2 when facing Cloud9, other than the new guy, but we'll get to him in a second. Last year, Reginald had the hardest time against Cloud9, getting crushed by High in the mid lane matchup. Bjergsen, on the other hand, has turned around the mid lane for Team Solo Mid this season. His KDA against Cloud9 is more than 4 times higher than anyone else on his team. And despite being down 17 CS at the 20-minute mark of the last game, Bjergsen finished the game with 6 kills and 0 deaths. But as you can tell by the CS discrepancy in the bot lane, the early game was carried by Wild Turtle's Caitlyn. Not only did he win the last hit battle, he finished the game at 5-0-7. So now for a look at the holy trinity of the top lane, let's send it over to Jat, who's roamed to the other side of the studio.
All right, thanks, Riv. And this year, there's been a lot of talk about the tanky top lane meta and the champs who are big enough to succeed in it. Now, we kind of want to break the conversation into the holy trinity of top lane: Shyvana, Dr. Mundo, and Renekton. First off, actually, we're going to have Renekton. He is the most picked in Europe, 31 picks, but amongst the 3, the least picked in North America at 20. He has a 67% win rate against Dr. Mundo, but only 38% against Shyvana. Now, speaking of Shyvana, how that matchup would go off. Second most pick in North America, the least picked of the 3 in Europe at only 16, and a very close matchup with Dr. Mundo, 47%, just a little bit on the losing side. Of course, then we take a look at Mundo, the third man, the most picked in North America at 29, third picked in Europe, but only that 33% win rate against Renekton. And now, I know we said it was a holy trinity, but there's a troll who's trying to make his way into the mix, especially over in Europe. He is the second most played top laner in Europe, and he has an amazing win rate over there. You can see 7-4 against Renekton, great records overall, but a bad win rate over in NA. Now, that was a lot of numbers to take in right at all at once, swiping back and forth. But sum it up like this: Renekton beats Mundo, who beats Shyvana, who beats Renekton. And I messed that up. If you're playing in Europe, you're probably going to see a troll. It's like paper, rock, scissors, and then the pillar in the top lane. Let's send it over to Riv for a countdown of the most played champions in the LCS so far this spring split, or as he likes to call it, the Instalock.
Let's start today's countdown to the most popular champs in North America, where 2 of the top lane gods are perched in the top 5 for the spring split. Coming in at number 5 on the NA hit list is the Piltover Enforcer, Vi. And then flying in at number 4 is the half-dragon herself, breathing fire, Shyvana. Up next is Dr. Mundo, working business, who not only beats Shyvana 59% of the time on the Rift, he beat her in this countdown too. The runner-up for most plays in the NA so far this spring is Leona. And while Thresh, king of the Rift, has been picked 38 times to top the charts, big play right there. Now over in Europe, the numbers break down a little different. Kicking off at number 5 is the Blind Monk Lee Sin, while number 4 is the Queen of Long Range Poke, Caitlyn. You're going to see third is the third member of the top lane trinity, of course. It is Renekton, and tied for first. Wait a minute, a tie in Europe? Yeah, it is. The tie for the top spot in Europe LCS is Lucian, and the monster that carries around his wife's soul for fun, Thresh. Just goes to show that opposites do attract, at least in the bot lane. And now one champ who's got a long way to go before he makes it into the Instalock list is Aatrox. The Darkened Blade made his first appearance in the 2014 season when SK Gaming's Freddy122 picked him up last week. Total number of champions played this spring in the EU and NA LCS combined has climbed to 79. That means 68% of the 117 champions in League of Legends have seen action on the Rift this spring. Last summer, there were 91 champs played in the EU and NA combined, so even though we're only halfway through the split, we're getting pretty close. So now if you think you know which champ will be next to make their 2014 season debut, then hit us up on Twitter at LOL Esports and use the hashtag LCSPreview to send us your predictions. One guy who's already on the played list but has seen his minutes severely cut over the last couple weeks is poor Cassidon. The Purple People Eater has been banned in 53 of 56 European games and 54 of the 56 North American games. That means he's been banned 96% of the time. He has not made it out of the ban phase since week 3 of the NALCS when Curse and CLG didn't ban or pick him. Cassidon hasn't done any actual rift walking since the Copenhagen Wolves picked him back in week 2 to beat up on Millennium. So if you're keeping track at home, the total is 107 bans, 3 picks, 100% win rate. Now, one of the big reasons that champs gain or lose popularity are the nerfs or buffs that a new patch brings. This week, the LCS matches will be played on the 4.2 patch that you at home have been playing on for a couple of weeks now. Just for zigs and giggles, let's go over some of the bigger champ changes. We'll start with the biggest change, Xerath. He is getting a complete overhaul of his kit. Because of the league rules, he will not be ready for his close-up for 2 more weeks. Dr. Mundo is also going under the knife. His cleaver got a bit skinnier, which might make Corporate Mundo rethink his policy of downsizing. Up next, even being the most played champion NA does not stop you from getting your chain cinched. Thresh's basic attack range got cut from 475 to 450. And then Yasuo was another champ to see his kit get sliced a little bit. It now takes more movement to generate flow, and Sweeping Blades gives less flow when Yasuo dashes. And just for good measure, the cast range of Last Breath has been reduced by 100. The 5th champ who got chunked a bit is Ziggs. His passive base damage and ability power ratio were both reduced at lower levels, and his explosive minefield deals less damage to minions as they charge across them. And with those changes in mind, now that Jat has successfully back to the desk, it's time to look in our rearview mirror the last week of the European LCS that will ever be played on the 4.1 patch. Goodbye, sweet patch. The first one we're going to take a look at is Roccat versus Gambit. First place Roccat taking on the Gambit, which they call the Gambit Pajamas right now.
Yeah, this was actually a bit of a rematch between Overpower and Nuked Up that we saw in the promotion tournament, but it all started off in the jungle with a nice first blood picked up.
After that, it was just play after play. Nuke Duck tried to take an advantage of going to the other lanes because things weren't working out at first.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a matchup against the mid laners. He cheated and went and fought the top laner, but he picked up a couple nice kills. It just wasn't enough, though.
It wasn't enough every time. See this kiting here by Celibert, almost going down. And again, the story of the game there coming in for Fnatic.
Yeah, Roccat just had the power, really strong there against Gambit.
Next highlight comes from Fnatic versus the Super Hot Crew. Fnatic's been on a bit of a slump, and Super Hot Crew has, well, been super hot.
Yeah, they have been on fire, but Fnatic, slow starters. This time they got off to a fast start. People thought maybe this is when Fnatic would end their slump.
This could be the time. Cyanide really coming through to the team, picking things up, but Super Hot Crew had some other things in mind at a game-changing Dragon fight.
Yeah, superior team fighting here, Super Hot Crew, especially Mimer, really got in the face of Fnatic on Renekton, zoned them all out, only so the Barrows could finish them off in the end. Super Hot Crew really turned the game around at that 17-minute Dragon fight.
And it became just a brute force by Super Hot Crew after this. You can see Mimer just completely walking through the base, a one-off. Coming in on the backside with the Draven double kill for Raleigh's rather. So they did pretty well for themselves.
Yeah, Super Hot Crew continues to climb and Fnatic continues to fall.
Next up, we have Fnatic versus the Copenhagen Wolves, and this highlight was another one to please. After losing to Super Hot Crew, Fnatic were looking to stop the slide.
Yeah, but you could see Copenhagen Wolves Amazing was trying to continue the slide. His Lee Sin was amazing this game. We're going to say that a little too many times, but he crushed them right there.
We may have to say it too many times. He played so well. Making an LCS top play, however, was Yellow Star's Thresh, but it was also Yellow Star's Thresh getting kicked here. That was the amazing play coming in, an LCS big plays from Amazing.
Nice play back there. There was the insect. Maybe that's the Amazing when you do a sideways warp jump. You go to one guy and jump back on the other. That was some solid play right there.
Our next highlight to take a look at Roccat versus SK, the first place Roccat taking on a surging 6-7 SK.
Yeah, SK Gaming has been looking better and better, and Roccat being #1 team We were not expecting SK to jump out to a big lead like that, but they showed they have team fighting skills, the tactics have N-rated, everything's coming together for SK.
Yeah, that 17-minute fight was a huge advantage coming in for SK. And the 23-minute fight as well, we're about to see a wombo combo. Just made everything work out.
This was Roccat trying their last effort to try and get the Baron, but SK came in with a lot of power here.
So much coming in from the Grand Skyfall and the Ziggs bomb. There just was not enough to stop this power, and Roccat seemed to falter a little bit.
Yeah, SK going undefeated in that last week. They secured the Baron, and SK is just looking better and better as this split continues. They're going to be a threat.
Absolutely. Every team in Europe right now seems to be a threat with the way that the standings have just been tossed up in these past few weeks. We see Fnatic falling from grace after 7 wins, and everybody else is kind of getting a good mix-up.
Yeah, Europe is the craziest place to watch LCS because game to game, week to week, you have no idea what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Now let's take a look at the standings, or the table, as they call it over in Europe. Roccat continues to shock the world and stand atop of that table, while Gambit holds on to second.
And it cannot be the European LCS with at least one tie, and right now that tie's in third place. After that, it's the Copenhagen Wolves, Alliance, and Millennium hanging out at the bottom of the standings.
And now for more on the European League Championship Series, let's send it over to Cologne, Germany, where D-Man and Quickshot are preparing for Week 7.
Thank you very much, Rivington. I am Lee D-Man Smith, and alongside me, of course, is Trevor Quickshot Henry, who the crowd love, of course. We have a lot to talk about heading into today's European LCS game, so let's start talking about Roccat. They are the team that is at the top of the table right now, and they are playing with style.
Yeah, Roccat are a team that shows strength in all aspects of the game, from picks and bans to execution in-game and actually playing. Talking about execution in-game, think back to their Pantheon and Malphite combos from earlier in their split, or the Mordekaiser mid, or the numerous examples of strong team synergy. They have it all.
Yeah, and Roccat came into the split with very little hype. Even after beating Ninjas in Pajamas 3-0 during the promotion tournament, they demonstrated extremely slow gameplay, and we weren't sure how they would adapt. But, however, now that we've seen them for 6 weeks, the answer is quite simple. They have been amazing.
Yeah, I think for a team like Roccat, they have the combination of strong individual players. They've got great teamwork. They've got brilliant map awareness. And all of that in conjunction with the fact they've never truly been in the spotlight, it's added up together to make them the strongest team in the European LCS so far this split.
And now I want to turn your attention to the tragedy of Fnatic. They're free-for-all from a perfect record, first defeating every single team in the league, and then losing to every single team in the league.
Yeah, well, the Fnatic team that we've seen has shown 2 completely different sides. For the first 7 games, they demonstrated strong lane presence. They had crisp, clean rotations. They had exquisite timing of buffs. They controlled the objectives and towers, and they controlled the tempo of the game in every game. For the next 7, however, Fnatic struggled to go even in lane. Then the few times they did, they then rotated poorly around the map. They struggled with picks and bans, and generally everything they did right, they're now unable to replicate.
And you talked about their picks and bans, and we have to bring up their double AP comp. Often, during those last 7 losses, they have played that double AP in 4 of their games that they've lost.
No, and it hasn't gone well, not one of the times. I'm a little hesitant to say that it's entirely due to picks and bans. I feel like the problem seems to be a slump in their performance, individually and as a team. And every single member of Fnatic has spoken out on social media and Reddit about the core and all the problems they've been having.
And of course, coming up in just a couple of minutes, guys, the Fnatic will have a chance to snap their 7-game losing streak in our first match of the day. So Xpeke and crew, they will be facing off against a team that knows all about what it's like to play through a rough split. That is, of course, Alliance.
Yeah, then after Roccat faces the Copenhagen Wolves in our last LCS match of the day, stick around because the European Challenger Series picks up with its 2nd set of spring games.
And then coming up on Friday, it is a European game of the week. Fnatic versus Gambit. And Fnatic, well, they desperately need to put together a winning week if they want to climb back to the top of the table. But standing in the way is their old rivals, the Men in Suits.
Yeah, and this is an incredibly interesting match to talk about as both these teams, they're playing on patch 4.2. Fnatic, they've got that 7-win losing streak. And Gambit, they've had a week off. They've had some time to prepare.
Absolutely. So, without further ado, we want to talk to someone from Fnatic. Jox is standing by with Cyanide.
Thank you very much, guys. I am indeed standing by with Cyanide, the jungler, of course, for Fnatic. Thank you for joining us to talk a little bit about the losing streak, of course. And what I wanted to start by asking you is what's the difference between the Fnatic that won 7 games in a row and then lost 7 games in a row?
I think after the last game we won against Wolves, like we were playing super aggressive and we ended up almost throwing the game. And after that we were being like, yeah, just don't do such aggressive moves when we are ahead. And yeah, we just started playing, like stopped playing like we used to play, and we were not really making any moves and let the enemy make always the moves.
So what is the biggest thing that you're improving on going into the next games as a team?
Like, we need to take more initiative, we need to get the drakes, we need to take the turrets, like when they make mistakes, really abuse it hard and not just like wait for the perfect opportunity. Like even like some high risk actions, like you need to take them sometimes and just go for it and hope you don't throw the game.
Now, as a jungler, of course, objectives is something that you are very much in charge of a lot of the time. Do you feel like you're having a harder time as a jungler than you did last season?
The like junglering role is a bit more difficult now because people are like buying Doran Shield all the time, and it's like impossible to kill them one-on-one. So pretty much if you want to kill, you need your jungler there, and so junglers can have a lot more impact since the solo laner can make the big plays by themselves. And top lane is being like the kind of the island it is, and you have to make a lot of calls, like when to go for turrets and drakes.
So you have 2 chances to break the winning streak versus Alliance or versus Gambit, or both, of course. How do you think those matches are going to go? What's the biggest chance of breaking the losing streak?
We have tried some new practicing methods, and I hope they're going to work out for us, and we are able to break the losing streak. And if not, then it's too bad.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, I saw your manager tapping on your guys' hands before the game. I saw you guys holding hands last week for good luck, but it didn't really help. Are you trying something else now?
You know, I don't know. We really didn't really come up with anything for this. Maybe we'll spontaneously do something like burst into song or whatever.
Okay, well, we're excited to see that. Good luck in your matchups. Thank you very much, Cyanide. And as for us, we're going to throw it across the world to Manhattan Beach to Riv and Jat for the top plays.
Thank you very much, Shocks, and a very good interview indeed. And hopefully Fnatic can start to put that spark back in their game because they still have the fans. They always will.
Yeah, Fnatic still has the following. They still have the potential and mostly the respect of most of the players in the league there. And
now, because I would never want to disappoint Shocks, let's get to it. The top 5 plays from Week 6 of the LCS, or as we like to call them, the Penta.
Yeah, number 5 was SK's Womble Comrade at the Baron Pit, Pantheon, and Ziggs.
Here comes the Grand Skyfall from Sven.
Here comes the boom in there. There's a call in as well. Vander going very, very low. Svenskern is going to pick up the kill right on towards Zazas. A nice, easy Baron to finish off here by SK. Being served up by Roccat as Candy Panda goes hammering into the 2 on the top. Baron goes down, picked up by SK Gaming. What a play out of them.
And I think everybody remembers this flash hook coming in from Edward, the Thresh King, doing what he does best.
Who is the top support? Well, it's caught, it's Eddie. The flay follows through, and Hulberto, he will get himself a triple kill.
Yeah, and we got our number 3 play coming in right here. You can see the ball right there from Afro.
And the burst, oh my God! Gigantic shockwave.
Number 2 coming in, it's going to be the amazing kick coming in, and it's on Yellow Star.
Amazing there, landing the kick onto Peke, following straight across and on towards Yellow Star.
And last play, could it be anything else? Shifter's finale.
Ghost, daydreaming is taking speed. The odd one's trying to do what he can. Shifter with the lick spin on. Oh my God! Spear rush, still going for the kills. The second, he's not gonna get it. Oh my God, he does get it.
Plays that'll always keep you going, your adrenaline pumping. I know that one had me reeling for the next few games after that. It was a whole great week of LCS.
It really just kicked the energy up after that game. And now we're going to be able to get to start a whole nother week of LCS. I mean, big games going over in Europe especially. Fnatic needs to break that losing streak. And also, Alliance broke a streak of their own with the wins and the losses and even odd numbers of weeks. We'll have to see right off the bat what ends up happening over there.
Well, in the middle of the show, we did say that patch is one thing that can toss up the standings the most, and we do have a new patch coming in, so it's going to be good. All right, everyone, that does it for this week's edition of the LCS Preview Show. The European League Championship Series is just a minute away, but for now, sit back and enjoy a moment of tranquility, a.k.a. the last hit.
Oh my God. Oh my God.